Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of Nerd Chronicles with your host, the socially awkward nerd Christian Paul speaking, coming to you live from Sosua up in the Dominican Republic, home of the live ratchetivity that's mainly on and popping up in them streets, especially up in them late night streets right now. You know what I'm saying? And this right here is literally going to be the little backdraw for what I'm actually going to discuss over the next couple videos. And was I'm going to go further parts into the knots count discussion. Now, in part 2 of the knots count discussion, we will be discussing an actual board certified medical physician licensed in the state of California, discussing on what her take in regards to knots count and how it can affect men and women to see if it's actually valuable to actually find a partner, whether it's dating, marriage, however it may be. And it's literally some juicy stuff, y'all. Best believe juicy. What I really tell y'all. It is literally crazy and insane. And it literally debunks many of these pseudo red pill gurus rhetoric when it comes to knots counts. And definitely some feminist stuff as well when it comes to knots counts also. It's a lot of chaotic stuff that's definitely practical, and even the knots count is there, you know. Why get too concerned? At the end of the day, it mainly comes to show it's not really about the knots count that's concerning. It's mainly about the trauma that person is mainly going through behind the scenes and the past at the end of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, we have this clip coming from Dr. Rena Malik, coming from Southern California, actually discussing about what her take on what knots count really is. And let's get into the juiciness, ladies and gentlemen. Juicy!
Does someone's body count actually matter? I'm Dr. Rena Malik, urologist and pelvic surgeon. And today we're going to talk about what people think is the ideal number of sexual partners, i.e. the body count that seems the most desirable. In 2024, a survey was conducted of 2,000 sexually active Americans. It was done.
And mind you, this is a very small sample size, ladies and gentlemen, okay? 2,000 is really not that much out of literally hundreds of millions of people all over the country, and let alone billions of people all around the world. I do want to make that very clear. This is a very, very minute sample size, okay? They'll give you an idea of what people's mindsets mainly are about, but it's not the end-all be-all. Doesn't really fully correlate to everybody actually thinking the same way.
By something called Talker Research, and it was commissioned by a Swedish sex toy company, Lilo. And it found that 1 in 4 Americans admit to keeping their body count from their partner. Okay. And 16% actually lowball their body count. However, 2/3 of the people in this survey thought it was really important to know the body count of their partner if they were in a serious relationship. But what are people?
You know, and I know for some people that's understandable, and that's their right. It's their concern, given their standards, and I can understand and respect that. You know what I'm saying? But that part, it can be literally hard to tell. As I said before, in my opinion, I just think it's unnecessary. You have to more so focus on the trauma and the mindset of any little off red flags that you're actually dealing with. Because body count could give us up, but it doesn't really correlate as the end-all be-all.
Looking for when they ask about body count? Well, another 2024 study wanted to look at how society views men and women with different numbers of sexual partners. And so they asked over 300 young adults in Germany to imagine a fictional 20.
So this is in Germany. This hasn't even taken place in the States, mind you. All right, I'll take that back. So this basically took place with 2,000 people, young adults in Germany, out of the millions actually living there. So I understand that. So they actually take a place of the active body count of young adults in Germany. Very interesting.
25-year-old man or woman with a variety of numbers of sexual partners, and that range anywhere from 0 partners to 12. The people in the study then rated how they felt society would view these individuals, not their own personal opinions. And the researchers thought this was important because it reflected perceived social pressures around sexual activity. So what did they find? Well, it turns out there is an ideal number of sexual partners, and it's actually different for men and women, but not that different. For women, the ideal number was a little lower, around 2 or 3 partners, and for men, it was slightly higher, around 4 or 5. Interestingly,
Due to the fact, given the data that's given, a lot more women want to have their men more sexually experienced in bed. Given the numbers and the sample size that's actually given at that time. I see.
the study also found that if you had too few or too many partners, that was actually negative for both genders. Now, moderate sexual activity was generally seen as most favorable, meaning that you should have some sexual partners. But if you went up or down, that was generally more negative. And these deviations from the ideal were different for men and women. For women, having more partners than the ideal was viewed more negatively than having fewer. Whereas for men, when they had fewer partners than the ideal, that was viewed as more negatively. But it wasn't as consistent as it was for women. And when we looked back at that Talker research survey, it found that the average American has an average of 14 partners, which is a lot higher than the ideal number. Now, I don't know.
The ideal number in Europe, the ideal number in Germany. So in America, it's 14, but given the survey of 2,000 people in Germany, the ideal number 4 or 5, right? We're talking about in practical terms, right? And we got some people, pseudo guru Myron Gaines having knots count of the hundreds. And he states to men that you got to have a minimal body count of 50 or more women just for you to actually get one step closer into high-value male status. Get the heck out of here, right? And yes, the way how women and men actually take body count, men are mainly givers when it comes to the phallus. Women are mainly receivers, giving their vagina, and how well they handle sex and how well they get piped down. Those types of things. So the way that, people operate, it all depends on the particular individual itself. I want to try and be careful not to actually generalize any sexual experiences that mainly going on because, what may happen with one unique sexual experience does not fully equate to other having the same exact result. So I do want to actually be careful on what I thoroughly say in regards to this type of topic. Yeah.
Enough about this survey from Talker. I'm trying to get the raw data to find out what ages these people were and, what sort of demographics they are. And if I do, I'll certainly make a video on that if you guys want to learn more. So guys, why does this even matter? What does this mean for the average person? Well, to me, it suggests that the old idea of having a sexual double standard, meaning men are getting praised for having lots of partners while women are shamed, is actually a little too simplistic. Yeah. So we know there's differences, but there's also similarities in how society views both genders. They want a moderate amount of sexual activity. And again, these are perceived societal judgments, and they're not necessarily reality. However, these perceptions can still influence our behavior and potentially how we feel about ourselves because this is what we think society thinks about us. Now, no study is perfect. This one was conducted in Germany, so it may not apply to other cultures. And it also focused on, again, this general perception of what society thinks, which, again, may or may not be valuable. So why does this matter? I think understanding societal perceptions of sexuality can ultimately help us challenge harmful stereotypes and promote.
I agree. And we should challenge that by actually digging out detailed statistics, thorough evidence, probably digging as much detail as we can, definitely per country. Because I know U.S. Census Bureau actually did that, but what about each and other individualistic countries that mainly go that same route as well? That's something that we also have to actually try to take care of as well. And we're not trying to make sure we get willing participants, keyword, willing participants in this study.
Healthier attitudes towards sex. And you guys know I think sex is great. So what I want you to take away is that your value isn't determined by the number of your sexual partners. Every human.
And I would say to a point, Now, the exception with that point is if the body count is actually just super high and you don't know how to actually get yourself regulated. You know what I'm saying? You pop out multiple babies by multiple women, or you're getting pregnant so many times, without having a ring on your finger, without actually getting married. In both cases, both men and women, that could actually just have literally throw a wrench up in the game, because you're going to create more chaos, not just for yourself and your partner, but also mainly your children that are going to come into this world. So that's another thing that I do want to actually take note on also as well. Those are a few exceptions, especially with, these OR chicks, or so I say former OR chicks, with Lily Phillips actually getting herself piped down by 100 guys in one day.
When was the last time you ate?
I think I had a yum yum, and I think I had a sandwich, and that was and then the rest.
After completing a shocking challenge of being with 100 men in 24 hours, Lily Phillips opens up about her experience. "It's not for the weak, girls, if I'm honest. It was hard," she shared, reflecting on the intensity and unexpected emotions of the moment. Watch as she candidly explains why this isn't something she'd recommend for everyone.
Now we see Bonnie Blue getting piped down by 100 men all in one day. Let me scratch that. Not 100. 1,000 men in one day. Okay, let me repeat that again. 1,000 men in one day. Okay?
It's a good job I had to check IDs for the 1057 because I now need to reach out to them for child support. God, this is going to make me rich.
That is beyond insane to me. And I'm going to literally talk about that in a different video and probably make another part 3 up in the Knots count and actually try and make this exclusively for these types of women that actually go to the extremes when it comes to Knots count. I'm actually going to discuss that very shortly once I get myself refreshed and fully showered up, have the GoPro out, have a little bit of discussion with some folks, and actually go chop it up a little bit more. But again, it comes to a point, as long as you wear protection, as long as you thoroughly have fun, get yourself checked out by a doctor once things are done. Make sure your partner's all cool and chill. Give her a positive text saying, "Hey, I had a lot of fun. Hope everything's okay." To make sure you legally protect yourself up by the criminal system and probably the civil lawsuits, especially when you're up in the United States of America or Canada. Okay, you don't want to get caught up in the Andrew Tate situation or Denmo situation. All right. I want to make it very clear, especially with the European courts as well. I don't know too much about various countries and European laws when it comes to SA or EPAR. Okay? I don't know too much about that, but please thoroughly do your research when it comes to these types of laws in your respective country. All right? So, yeah, those are the points I do want to discuss with. Now let's try and finish the video right here. And bear with the delay.
Is entitled to have pleasure as long as it's safe and
Correct.
consensual. And ultimately, if you disclose your body count with your partner or if it feels important to them, that is a discussion worth having with your partner and understanding ultimately why that number matters to them. And it may be valuable information to you too if you're the one disclosing your information. You want to be in a partnered relationship where your partner understands and accepts you regardless of how few or how many partners you might have had. And I'm curious, what do you think about body count? Comment below and let me know. And if you're still listening and you made it this far.
All right. I give her some credit. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as she is healed, as long as she went to therapy, as long as she's mature, there's nothing wrong with that. You can definitely keep it between the two of you. You don't have to really actually go out and actually just try and project that type of woman is actually basically just a hoe. You know what I'm saying? 304, if you will. You feel me? So you got to really do all these things in regards with that, because that's mainly between the two of you. You know what I'm saying? So, as I said before, and I've learned this from a Nuck in the Game, that we were on the plane ride together, literally up to DR, and he was actually schooling me some game in regards to a lot of these chicks down there. And I know I made a video posting about that around a few years ago, discussing about this ordeal, right? Especially when you're dealing with a third world country, man. And I'm going to speak on this from the men's side because I don't know really too much about the women's side, but I do want to actually speak from the men's side in this. You know what I mean? Some women, from what he told me, some women will use you up and actually try and give up their body to you just so they can actually try and get a big come up from you so they can try to become your citizens, or they can actually try to get like a big payday from you due to the fact that their job mainly pays some garbage up in the DR due to the fact that it's a third world country, and they're looking for a big come up any way that they can get. And he basically told me this: have fun, however, always be observant, always pick up subtle cues from what the woman's mindset is to protect yourself from harm's way so that you don't get caught up, because some of his old friends that came by have had kids out of wedlock up in this country in the DR. Mind you, you know, like abortion is illegal in the DR, and yet some of the women actually still practice that anyway. But God forbid, what if they get caught? Everybody's screwed now, and homeboy loses because now he's gonna be stuck dealing with another child that he's gonna have to deal with for the rest of his life, at least 18 years, getting his financial situation straight just to make sure the child's okay. Or if he actually leaves that family alone, actually just discards them, you know, his image, if exposed, more than likely would be tainted. So I saw what Unc actually just told me in regards to the game, you know what I'm saying? And I know this is going to be a lot of opportunities for a lot of dudes that are trying to update knots counts in their ways. But as I said before in the previous video when I was discussing the Shannon Sharp situation up in Hoboken, it always comes with risk. And the risk could either be heavy or it could literally be fatal. All right? Now, let me get myself up on to shower real quick. And if I have enough energy to go, I can further discuss more about Bonnie Blue's situation as well as Lily Phillips and giving their mindsets of what goes on to women that actually have those extreme high knots counts. And I'm not talking about in the double digits like 10, 20, 30, 40. I'm not even worried about that. I'm talking about triple to quadruple digits, okay? Within years. And we're going to get to that real shortly.